Assalamu alaikum. This is lecture 28 of Advanced Cost and Management Accounting. We have been discussing the topic of cost management. Cost management, we have seen, is not something which is unusual or in common to any kind of a setup, whether it is an organization, whether it is a small business, so much so that households and families and individuals also need to manage costs. So to understand that cost management is important, I think that's very easy, that everyone has to look to their own setup and they can more or less from their own experiences understand how they manage their own costs. Families manage their own costs. Housewives are constrained with budgets and things like that for managing the families. And so businesses have their costs, and so do larger organizations. All are trying to, in these days of tight pressures on business volumes and costs, increasing and rising costs, which normally were not as rising so rapidly perhaps some time ago. Particularly, there are costs such as energy costs and other raw material costs, and which involve foreign exchange at times, which goes beyond the control of even small businesses, large businesses, and even markets. So many costs that are determined beyond and are beyond the control of the management, they are still nevertheless making efforts, finding ways, and trying to see how then that cost can be managed. We spoke of some different techniques earlier in the course, and we said that people try to bring in management techniques. People want to bring in value engineering type of techniques, other techniques of trying to manage costs and try to minimize and optimize the use and optimize the value from the cost. We are going to discuss a similar such technique today, and one of those techniques is business process re-engineering. So there are various ways in which businesses are trying to keep their costs low, and good management these days is basically being judged by how well they manage the cost, how well they manage the resources, and that is a reflection of the performance of management, and of course it is also reflected in the performance of the business. So business process re-engineering is something that we will look at today. How is business process re-engineering carried out in order to manage and minimize costs? We can look at various different types of processes. Materials handling is a process. Materials handling can be, it comprises of, in the first place, placing orders, receiving the material, inspecting material, and then storing the material. So all these are various processes, and they can be combined together and looked at as one process, and that can be materials handling process. Now, in business process re-engineering, management would like to rethink of this process, and they would like to realign and change and make large significant changes to the process, which perhaps would have a positive impact in the cost reduction. So this process we can think of the materials handling process, and we will see that one way of re-engineering such a project, such a process would be that companies might place orders in advance with the suppliers and have their own production schedules sent to the suppliers with an arrangement and the agreement that the suppliers are going to provide the goods at the time when those goods are needed in the production. So this would be process re-engineering. Instead of writing out orders, having your own inventory levels, and only the company managing their inventory levels and arranging orders accordingly, they can make these arrangements with the suppliers. And the suppliers would then know the production schedule, and they would themselves provide the goods according to the production schedule based on perhaps one blanket large order. So fewer orders would mean fewer ordering costs. Similarly, as the goods are going to arrive in time for production, then that would mean the organization will require less space, less storage space for those materials that are incoming. And that can reduce costs if that is properly adjusted and handled. In addition, the supplier can also be asked to guarantee the quality of the product and carry out inspections prior to dispatch of the product from their factories. And if that arrangement can be reached, then there might not be a need to have an inspection by this organization, and therefore inspection costs can be eliminated. So therefore, this whole business process has been re-engineered and has been realigned and redefined in such a way that several of the costs, such as the inventory storage cost, such as the ordering cost and the inspection cost, all these can be significantly reduced in their business operations. So this is an example of business process re-engineering. These days, as we have said, the demand of customers with regard to quality is increasing very much. The customers are additionally requiring better and better qualities. So management is focusing in trying to improve their processes, improve their products, and at the same time, the competition and other, as we said, cost pressures are forcing them to improve their processes and their production so that they can reduce these costs. This has become very important for businesses now to continually look at their processes and re-engineer. We can see some of these examples in our daily lives. And one example would be the ATM machines at banks. Earlier on, when you needed to go to the bank to, let's say, withdraw some money, the process involved you going to the banks, perhaps standing in queues, waiting in line, then coming to the counter operator, presenting him with the checks. He will then go and verify the signatures. He would then give you the cash, and you can. So that was a process that was being followed. The cost to the banks was that they needed to have a number of counters open, and the people need to be employed to handle this customer's service at all times. Now, with the introduction of these ATM machines, automatic teller machines, you can see that the process has been completely changed. Now an individual will go into the machine, access the machine, use his code number, and withdraw the cash instantly and come out. So that is saving time to the customer. He doesn't have to stand in queues, stand in lines, and it is saving cost to the bank. The bank does not now need that many people on the counter to be operating the counters, and therefore they can reduce that cost by having these ATM machines. So the ATM machine is an example of a business process that has been re-engineered. This is how re-engineering is now coming into focus more and more businesses are trying to align themselves and trying to rethink of their business processes to improve and to reduce the cost. Another very similar example is that of the automated token machines. The token machines at the banks, when they are there at the banks, as you enter a bank, you go and press a button and you obtain a token number. That has removed the problem of people standing in queues, perhaps people feeling that queues are longer in one and shorter in the other side. So in order to make that process of handling customers in an orderly and effective manner, the customer goes, presses a button, takes a token number, he has a token number with him. The token number is then displayed at the top of a counter. And as your customer token number is displayed, you can go to the teller, you can go to the counter and get your service, whether it is cash withdrawal, cash deposit, whatever. So this has improved customer service. It has improved customer satisfaction. Everyone goes there and is looked after in turn. And so therefore, this process has been re-engineered. People don't have to stand in line and wait in queues. They can go and sit down in the side and wait for their turn, wait for the token number. So the automatic teller counter number is another process that has been re-engineered by the banks, and they have now improved the service to their customers. Banks and computerization is not the only thing. I'm sure there are many examples that you will think of yourself of how things were previously being done and how they are being done now. There are some, of course, very fascinating changes. And if you have seen how wood is being cut nowadays at furniture makers and things like that, so you will see that, of course, in the olden days, there was a saw and there was a carpenter, and he was cutting the wood with his saw, and that was a slow process, and it was perhaps not as accurate as what you see presently. There is a cutter blade that is spinning by electric power, and the wood is just placed in front of the cutter blade, and as the wood is placed in front of the cutter blade, the blade just cuts the wood at a very very fast speed and in a very accurate and even manner. So this is also a result of process re-engineering. That process of cutting wood with saw has been re-engineered by the electric blade, and the electric blade is now cutting through the wood in a more precise and a much faster way. So this is what we are looking at when we look at business process re-engineering, and this is how processes in all kinds of operations, all kinds of businesses are now being re-examined and thought of to try to bring about improvements that would improve the quality and also reduce the cost. Reducing time is also like reducing cost. So the faster machines, the more current automated type of machines are reducing all processes, all processing time, and all kind of processes are being re-engineered to try to reduce cost. Let's look at the slide. Business process re-engineering involves examining business processes and making substantial changes to how the organization currently operates. A business process is a collection of activities linked together in a coordinated manner. For example, and we use this example, material handling is a business process consisting of scheduling production, storing material, processing purchase orders, inspecting materials, and paying suppliers. The aim is to improve key business processes by focusing on simplification, cost reduction, improve quality, and enhance customer satisfaction. Once we look at business process as a link of activities, all a group of activities linked together, and that forms a business process, then the process re-engineering effort is going to look at the process and try to do things better. we have said earlier that the best people who can bring about process changes and process improvements are the people who are performing the process. But they need to be trained and they need to understand the process which they are performing. And that was our discussion as part of employee empowerment. So employee empowerment is part of this overall cost management effort and cost management type of renewed thoughts within the organization, trying to bring about these improvements and reduce cost, and at the same time enhancing customer satisfaction. We also mentioned that it will not be effective and in the organization's interest if they reduce cost but at the same time reduce the quality. There is a great deal of focus on quality. Competition is increasing in most type of business activities, so reducing the quality is never going to be an option. Quality must be enhanced, but at the same time, to enhance quality, one can use business processes, re-engineer them, rethink them, and then aim to reduce the cost and improve customer satisfaction. The process might be re-engineered by sending production schedule direct to nominated suppliers and entering into contractual agreements to deliver materials according to production schedule. This is what we have earlier discussed in our example of ordering goods and having longer term arrangements with suppliers so that they are going to provide the goods on time and according to the production schedule. Quality guarantees and inspection prior to delivery can also be included. End result might be the elimination or reduction of storing, purchasing, and inspecting activities. The business process re-engineering focus is on major changes rather than marginal improvements. So the way in which we should understand business process re-engineering is that this is looking at the entire process. Perhaps a more effective way of doing this would be to appoint a business process re-engineering team, and as a team, as a separate task, it is going to look at some major and large improvements. Normal small improvements going on in processes that can be done and is being done on a day-to-day and a routine basis. But the process re-engineering, this requires an effort and looking at the business processes in detail and coming up with some significant and major differences and major kind of changes and improvements. So this is how we'll distinguish business process re-engineering to the other employee empowerment type of improvements. This is going to result in significant changes, major improvements, which will bring about significant cost reductions, and it should bring about significant changes either to product or to customer satisfaction. That's how we are going to look at and in cost management, and we are going to try to see that business process is being re-engineered. We saw that there is such a thing as value engineering, where it was looking at the value being perceived by the customer at each step and from each part and from each different function of the product. So that was going to basically rely on market research to tell you how the customers value each function that your product is providing. So therefore, you can engineer it and have the product giving you those functions which are valued most by the customers, and therefore they are willing to pay for those functions. That was value engineering. We also looked at reverse engineering, and reverse engineering was looking at a product, a similar product by competition, and then to dismantle it into its significant and its various parts, and then try to see what processes have been performed, what kind of materials have been used, and how it has been put together, and see if improvements can be brought about, which will improve A, cost effectiveness, and B, customer satisfaction, so that you have in the end a product which costs less but has greater customer satisfaction. So these are all the concepts that we looked at while trying to find different ways of managing cost and improving cost. Cost of quality. Quality has become one of the key competitive variables. Total quality management, or TQM, is a customer-oriented process of continuous improvement that focuses on delivery of consistent high quality on time. As we have examined and we have described that quality is one of the key aspects of products these days for customer satisfaction. Customers are becoming more and more choosy as goods are becoming available from all over the globe. So manufacturers are basically competing not only with manufacturers in the same country or the same region, they are virtually competing with manufacturers globally. And therefore, it has become more and more important for companies to continue to focus on quality and provide greater satisfaction and value to the customer. Now, all this providing cost and providing value and providing greater satisfaction to customer is going to have a cost. So there is a cost of quality, and managers must be aware of this cost of quality. It is very well spent. It is a cost which organization might very well agree to spend because it brings in value. It brings in greater customer satisfaction, and therefore it improves business, and there's a chance of greater business success. But at the same time, it is important to look at what this quality is costing the organization. Bringing about improvements of quality, there was a concept of total quality management, and total quality management, again in the similar kind of cost management techniques, was trying to look at bringing about improvements in quality at each step of the process in the organization, in virtually everything that they were doing. So all the employees should be involved in a way in this total quality management exercise. It was a process of continuous improvement to bring about changes and improvements in products, in service, and in customer satisfaction. So that you can nearly see the processes within the company as a chain, and a chain being linked together, all these different processes. And at each stage of the chain, the link is that one part component is providing a service to the next component, and this next component is providing goods and services to the next component. So the total quality management principle was saying that each is a customer of the previous link. Each link is a customer of the previous link, and therefore there has to be focus on satisfaction of the immediate component or the immediate customer. So if all these components are going to ensure satisfaction of their immediate customer, then it follows that eventually the product that goes to the market will also focus on its customer and achieve customer satisfaction. Total quality management, of course, was also not limited only to the production process. That extended throughout the organization in all the things that they were doing. Wherever some work is being performed, it is being performed for a user. So the user becomes the customer, and he is getting a service that needs to be satisfied. So the provider of that service to each of its user, each of its customer, the organization therefore comes into a frame of providing throughout the organization good service and customer satisfaction. companies discovered it was cheaper to produce items correctly the first time. It is a waste of resources to make substandard items, then detect them and rework them. So if they have produced the items correctly in the first place, then there is no substandard item. Substandard means that product does not meet quality standard. So it is a substandard item which then needs to be detected. So there is a process of production going on, and the organization has to engage resources to detect all the substandard items. And once it has detected them, it has to then rework them. Rework meaning to process it again, to make improvements, to bring it up to the quality standard. Or scrap them. Scrap them means sell them as waste. And therefore, that is all additional cost. So we have said companies discovered it was cheaper to produce items correctly the first time. It is a waste of resources to make substandard items, then detect them and rework them or scrap them. The emphasis of TQM is to design and build in quality. The quality can be taken as a concept that has to be built in to the work practices, to the work procedures at every stage in every part of the organization. This is what is called quality consciousness. The organization becomes quality conscious, that at every stage, in every part of the organization, in everything that they do, they have to consider quality as being of utmost importance. So that's what the training in TQM, Total Quality Management, is trying to build into the organization. It doesn't just happen, and just telling people once that you should be quality conscious is not going to work magics. It requires efforts, training, focus, repeated emphasis. So organizations, they conduct significant training programs with regard to TQM for the organizations. Each of the employee must feel responsible for whatever quality of work that they are doing. So that's how quality is going to, in a way, flow through the organization, and everyone working hard and having focus on achieving high quality in whatever work they do. That's how quality is brought about, and it can be seen that once it has been brought about, then all this effort is cost effective. Otherwise, making errors, making mistakes, making things wrong, making the substandard, as we have called substandard kind of process or product, which then, first of all, it needs to be detected that this is meeting the standard, this is not, and then that product or process is then separated. It has to then be reworked, improved, and then brought about and to try to bring it to specification. So all that is the cost of quality. All that is the cost of poor quality. When you don't meet the quality and you don't meet the standards and work is not done in that kind of a manner, then the process of and the processes suffer, and the cost results, and that cost is the cost of waste and the cost of poor quality. So this is what organizations are trying to now eliminate. Quality has been focused, and the idea is that this cost that is incurred to bring about enhanced quality is better spent rather than the cost of waste and the cost of bringing about improvements to substandard products. As we know, this cost is this quality consciousness and quality improvements is going to have a cost, and management should be aware of what the cost of bringing about these improvements is, and they should regularly review this cost, and they should regularly have this reported, and how it should be reported we'll just look at in the slide. Managers need to know the cost of quality and how they are changing over time. A cost of quality report should be prepared showing four things: prevention costs, i.e., preventive maintenance, quality planning, training, extra cost of high material. So managers will have to make themselves aware of what the cost of quality is. They will need to know how the costs are changing, what it is costing them to produce the kind of quality, and how these costs are changing over time. This means there should be some system of reporting the cost of quality on a regular basis. We are going to look at one proposed report on cost of quality. This report is going to comprise of four elements. One is the preventive cost, the cost of preventing. This is the cost that relates to all activities that are designed to prevent errors, that are designed to prevent mistakes and faulty products. And then we are going to look at the next stage. This is the appraisal, cost of appraisal. And appraisal cost basically is the inspection stage, where we are trying to examine whether or not products have reached the required quality. So we have the preventive stage, secondly the appraisal, thirdly we are going to look at the internal failure cost. Internal failure cost is going to include items where production processes have somehow not been followed and the product does not meet the specification. So there it has to be either scrapped or reworked. So this is an internal failure of process where products do not meet their required quality standards and therefore they need to be reworked or scrapped. And lastly, we are going to look at the external failure cost. External failure cost means where information is now coming from outside the organization. When customers receive a product and they find it does not meet their expected quality standard or it is faulty, which they then return to the organization. Organization will then either scrap it or provide warranties for it, provide replacement, and those are all warranty and replacement costs. Those are going to be classified as external failure costs. So four types of different costs should be included in the quality report, and this cost of quality report should be examined by managers on a regular basis. Let's look at the slide. Prevention cost. This cost is going to include where the organization is intentionally going out and buying high quality material so that they get good quality and they are not using the lower quality material, low cost material. If you are going to focus on quality, it is important that all your material that you purchase should be of high quality. Even though you are paying more for this high quality, this will be highlighted in this report, but this extra cost incurred for high quality material will be reflected in the quality of your product, and you are going to produce better quality product, which therefore is going to attract greater customer base, and it is going to be a longer lasting and therefore sustain the business for a longer period. Secondly, appraisal costs, costs of inspecting at each stage, quality audits and field tests. These are the costs that will go under the appraisal cost heading. Internal failure costs such as scrap, downtime. Downtime is when the production has been stopped because of some process departures, delays, breakdowns. Downtime is basically breakdown and stoppage time. And internal failure costs should include the cost of repair. Whatever needs to be repaired, whether it is machine, whether it is products, they need to be repaired and brought back into working condition and standard performance conditions, then that cost is included as part of internal failure cost. External failure costs, customer complaints, warranty replacements, damaged reputation. The last one, damaged reputation, is also a significant cost to the organization that needs to be the concern of management. Many organizations can in fact see their downfall based on this last aspect that we talked about, which is the damaged reputation. If the focus is not on quality, and customers are going to find the products repeatedly which do not meet standards and are somehow faulty, and somehow they are not usable products, then chances are that customer will then not go back to buy another one of the same product. They might go to the competition, they might go to a different brand, and therefore this product quality is going to damage reputation of the organization, the reputation of the brand. This brand building and brand reputation has become a very significant and an important thing in businesses these days. Those organizations which protect their brands, they promote and project their brands, and they are conscious of the quality of their brands. Those organizations, they see the reward of that exercise, and they regard that as significant because it is important for business sustenance and business profitability. Many organizations, and I'm sure you as consumers can think of many organizations that have nearly seen the end of their working days because of this damaged reputation. Once the reputation goes down, customers move to a different brand, and the business's sales start to decline, and the decline may reach a point where it cannot be turned around. It is usually said that if a customer has a bad experience with the product, he is going to tell at least 10 other people of this bad experience. So the damaged reputation can be spread very quickly and very easily. On the other hand, if the customer has a good experience, that good experience is shared maybe to one other person compared to the 10 other persons that he might share a bad experience with. So therefore, it's harder to build good reputation, and it is essential to protect yourself from bad reputation. Quality failures and product defects are going to bring about bad reputations that are going to damage and harm the organization. Cost management and the value chain. Value chain analysis is increasingly being used to manage costs more efficiently. Value chain is the linked set of creating activities all the way from the basic raw materials to the end use product. We have referred to the value chain earlier in our lessons. The value chain, we have said, is going to start from the supplier. When you receive the raw materials, it is going to include your R&D, research and development, whatever design and engineering you do, the design stage, the production stage, the marketing stage, distribution, and of course, and ultimately, customer service. So this chain, we are saying, is basically all these value creating linked activities. All the activities that the organization performs are linked together and form virtually a chain, which is referred to as value chain. So now cost management is a technique now in order to bring about cost reductions and in order to bring about good management techniques. The value chain process can also be looked at and analyzed, which was referred to as value chain analysis. So as value chain is looked at, the value chain analysis is going to provide useful information in order to manage costs. What the value chain analysis is going to do is that it is going to examine the activities in each part of the chain. And so the attempt would be to maximize and to improve each step of the chain, starting from, let's say, R&D as the first step. R&D activities, if they are carried out effectively, if they are examined as value providing and improvements and cost reductions carried out there, they will reflect on the design. the designing is going to be based basically on the R&D. So the design of the product can be improved by the R&D. And therefore, the design department is like, as we said earlier, a customer for the R&D process. And R&D needs to satisfy this customer, which is the design department. If they get good research and development work done, then designing is going to be efficient, effective, and easier. Similarly, the production might depend on the design function. So for production, designing is going to bring about improvements and efficiencies. And therefore, production is a customer of the design function. And along with the value chain link, we are saying, so, and similarly, marketing is going to be a customer for the production, that they have to create good output, produce good products that they pass on, which becomes easier to market and it becomes easier to pass on to customers and provide good market information on. Similarly, for distribution, marketing is going to be an important thing. So the direct customer within the organization of marketing is distribution. They need to market the product well so that when the distribution goes out and spreads the product, makes it available, the customers are aware and they are able to consume and purchase. And finally, customer service is the last stage in our value chain, where the customer service is then, in fact, a customer of the distribution. So good distribution needs to be providing good service, providing and making the product properly available, and therefore the customer services, which is now looking at complaints from the customers and dealing with the queries and warranty issues and things like that. So if the product is delivered in good condition and at good time to the markets, then there is likely to be greater customer satisfaction, and customer services are likely to be able to perform better. A firm which performs value chain activities more effectively and at a lower cost than its competitors will gain an advantage. This is looking at the value chain and its different components, where you can perform efficiently the value chain activities, then the competitors are going to have to try to meet your standards and you will have the advantage. It is a system of interdependent activities in which performance of one activity affects the performance and cost of another. Value chain analysis is therefore providing the organization with the opportunity to improve and ensure that at each stage of the production process, the desired quality is achieved, the costs are efficient and effective. We are looking at, to start with, from the time goods are received in the organization and through the different processes of production and marketing and distribution up to the final customer, to ensure satisfaction of the end customer. This analysis is providing the company to look at the costs and quality at each stage. And it can then compare them and with their standards, and if they can improve them at each stage, then chances of getting a good product at the end are also high. You want to obtain customer satisfaction from the end product. The value chain is trying to bring focus that you obtain this customer satisfaction from the first stage in the organization, from the first stage in the process. The very first stage, when goods are received, into the research and design stage, into the production, and so forth. So value chain is going to help in bringing about improvements and lower costs. Each stage is going to be considered as a customer of the previous stage. So the chain functions like this. so that if you are satisfying the need of your immediate customer, then chances are that the end stage, the customer and user of the end product will also be satisfied. Each link is seen as the customer of the previous link. If each link satisfies the need of the customer, then end customer satisfaction should follow. So by examining the value chain, we have seen how organizations can manage their costs, bring their quality to the standard, ensure improvements. Employees should be motivated, employees should be trained, employees should be empowered. That's what the organizations now need to target and aim and focus on. Competition is high, global products are available, costs are rising, many costs are uncontrollable. Energy cost, we've said, and things like that, and the exchange rate, and many of those are beyond the influence of the organization. So in order to ensure that businesses will continue to perform, management will continue to seek ways and techniques to manage A, the cost, and B, the quality. Let's look at a simple example which demonstrates the traditional and the activity-based budgets. The budget for the production, planning, and development department of Okada PLC is currently prepared on traditional system. The analysis of costs by expense type for the period ended 30th November 20X0 is as follows. So you have the expense detail, then you have the budget percentage and the actual percentage. Salaries are 63% and in the budget, suppliers are 6, travel cost is 12, technology is 10, and occupancy is 12. All this adds up to 100, and actual costs for these items: salaries 63%, supplies 5%, travel cost 12%, and technology 7, occupancy 13. That also adds up to 100. Total budget and actual costs for the department for the period ended November 30th are rupees 1 million and 1,060,000 respectively. In this example, we have seen different expense heads, and we have seen the budgeted amount and the actual amount only as percentages. This is important sometimes to see how questions can be framed. So the percentages are there, the total amount is given, and both for the budget and as for the actual. The company now feels an activity-based budgeting approach should be used. A number of activities have been identified, and budget and actual costs should be attributed as follows. Now, activities are shown with their respective budget and actual percentages. Activities include scheduling new products, scheduling existing products, remedial scheduling, special studies, training, management, and administration. Required: prepare 2 budget control statements for the department and compare with actual, showing variances, including traditional expense-based analysis and activity-based analysis. This kind of a statement is designed, and the example is designed to show you how to produce different statements based on A, traditional system, and B, the activity-based system, and how you would compare the budgets and actuals. Performance report under the traditional system would look at the expenses in their normal classification: salaries, supplies, travel costs, technology, occupancy. And the budgeted and actual amounts have been calculated using the percentages given and the differences shown in the variance. So under the traditional method, you will have seen that the expenses include the salary and travel and occupancy, things like that. That is the traditional system, showing you the actual and the budget based on the percentages that has been given, and it's a simple calculation using the percentage and on the total arriving at the cost of each expense. Performance report, activity-based. Under the activity-based, the activities are being detailed: scheduling, existing and new, remedial, special studies, training, etc. Here again, the budget and the actual have been based on the percentages that were given. So this little example is just there to show you how to calculate when you are given different percentages for traditional based and for activity based. And the way in which questions can be framed is by giving percentages and asking you to calculate them. That's the end for this section. Thank you very much.